Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Chuck. If this is your very first time, I want to say thank you for hitting that play button. If you're returning and you're an e-subscriber, one of my e-families, I appreciate your support, and as well the thumbs up squad. Hey, without you guys, we're not growing this channel. I appreciate the thumbs up each and every time you come into the video. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about the 2016 Corvette Z06. This particular one right here, I've had now for 2 years, and within the next 10 days or so, well, I'm selling it. And you may say, Chuck, why are you selling this car? Well, I have placed an order. It has been built. We're now waiting for GM to release it, which should be towards the end of this month, and that is my 2019 Corvette ZR1, named Fearless. So we should be getting that car here towards the end of this month, maybe the first part of April. So if you want to see content with the ZR1, definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell button next to it. That way you know each and every time I'm putting out a video. Now, another thing that I just purchased from Rick Corvette Conti out of Ohio is a 2017 Grand Sport Collector's Edition. I purchased that for my wife, and we're now awaiting. That's supposed to ship to us. They're supposed to be picking it up either Monday or Tuesday of this next week, and then we should be having that shortly. It's a beautiful car. My wife's excited about it. I can't wait to get it here. And we'll be making content with the new ZR1 as well as the Grand Sport. But in today's video, I wanted to go over what are some of the things that I've really enjoyed about having a Z06 this past 2 years. It's got about 13,000 miles on it. I've tried to drive it as much as I possibly can. And you may say, Chuck, that's 2 years, 13,000. You're only driving like, 6,500 times a year. That's not very many miles. Well, the average Corvette owner only puts 3,000 miles on their Corvette a year. So I'm a little bit ahead of the average guy. But again, when the weather's conducive, I like getting out and driving this car. But we're going to talk about some things that I enjoyed about it and some things that I haven't enjoyed. So guys, let's jump in the car. Let's go for a spin. We're going to throw a camera up front so you guys can see what's in front of me. I'll be in the upper right-hand corner, and let's talk about Corvette and the 2016 Z06. Now, I didn't do a ton of modifications to this car. The first modification I did do was I did change out the OEM Brembo brakes. I changed those out to the Hawk ceramic brakes just to get rid of the amount of brake dust. That is going to be one thing to start the list here of what I did not like about buying a Corvette that had the traditional metal Brembo brakes, is that the brake dust is horrific. I highly recommend going with ceramic brakes. You can now, there's such demand for these type of brakes that now GM offers them on the Z06, the Grand Sport. Of course, they come standard on the ZR1. But not only do you get better stopping power, but there is absolutely no brake dust whatsoever. So change out the brake pads, change out the exhaust system. I went from the stock exhaust to the Corsa Extreme catback system. I will not be doing any modifications as far as exhaust on the ZR1. And you may say, why? Just watch this. As you can see, the ZR1 doesn't need any modifications. That just sounds wicked, if you ask me. Now, the second thing I didn't like about the car is after I got the Z06, there was a big story that came out about heat soak, and evidently there must have been enough there because people were filing lawsuits. But the biggest thing was that GM did go in and change the cooling bricks on the Z06, and that was evident in the new supercharger cover that was there. So GM, must have realized there was something there. Now, I've never had an issue with the car, but I haven't also seriously tracked this car, much like probably 90% of people who own a Z06. You don't really track their cars. But knowing that you have something that could be an issue on in the future, I didn't really kind of like that part about it. Now, the third thing about the Z06 that I really wasn't a big fan of is how it does come from factory with its alignment, the camber, the toe. From different people that I've spoken to, different types of forums, it seems to be a broad range of alignments that did come out of the factory. But you know, I wish GM would offer, just like they have a box, hey, you know, is this going to be a car that you're just going to cruise in? Is this going to be something that you're going to track? Because if you're not going to track it, then they ought to set the toe and the camber and the alignment of everything, you know, close to zero as possible, so that you don't get all the wear on your tires like I did. You're going to buy a new Z06, Grand Sport, any kind of Corvette, the new C7s, and you're just going to cruise it, then definitely make sure that you get an alignment done on the car after the 500-mile break-in. I wouldn't recommend doing it before then, because your suspension and everything else is going to settle a little bit. So I would wait until that 500 mark. And then, you know, a lot of people may say, well, the dealership's not going to cover that. Well, if you'll go in there and say, hey, you know, over the first 500 miles I've had the car, I've noticed it's kind of pulling. I want you to go ahead and just do an alignment on it, and hey, these are the specs I want you to put it in. And if you're unaware, you know, what the specs should be for, maybe you're just going to drive it mainly on the streets, and maybe every now and then with the vet club, we're going to, you know, go and do a track day or something like that. I will leave linked below the recommendations for those alignment numbers. Now, the fourth thing that I really wasn't a big fan of is on this car, the paddle shifters, if you have it in manual mode, have like a delay, big time delay. So I'm in 7th gear right now. I hit 6. It's a little bit of a faster down when you're downshifting, but when you're upshifting, I'm in 5th now. There's quite a bit of a delay in that. It's not as quick. I think that that's something that GM could definitely do better at. I'm sure they will when the C8 comes out with the mid-engine. But it would have been nice to have, you know, maybe a little bit of a difference, which I'll be checking out with the ZR1, but I don't think they've really addressed the paddle shifters when it comes to the C7s and the amount of, so like right now I'm in 1st gear, and unfortunately I've got a Corolla in front of me that, so you can hear it there. I'm going to click it, and you see the delay. There's quite a bit of delay in that. Not a real big fan of that. And then the final thing that I did not, that is just horrific on this car, is the cup holders. The cup holders are an absolute joke. Anything you put in that, I guarantee you it is going to fall out. Bottle of water, tumbler, whatever, it's definitely going to tumble out of that thing. So definitely wouldn't recommend that, putting anything in that. Now there are some different workarounds. I found one on Amazon that worked a little bit better. I know San Diego Designs is looking at coming up with something for the C7 if they ever do, and they send me you know, the update of whatever they've come up with. I'll be sure to share that with you guys. But when it comes to me buying this Z06, what are some of the things that I've loved about it? What are some of the things that I just, golly, have been so enjoyable? Number one is this was my first Corvette to own, and to get involved with a Corvette club has been priceless. I highly recommend, if you've got a Corvette of any generation, get plugged into a local Corvette club. I bought this car on February 10th, 2016. I was at a meeting, their very first meeting on March of that next month. And ever since then, it's been an amazing experience. I've met a lot of amazing people. It's just, I can't, you know, it's kind of hard to explain outside of just, if you just own a Corvette and you just go out and you drive and maybe you got a few people you drive with, having a Corvette club, hands down, the best experience. You know, number two about having a Corvette is I never really understood what it's like to have something that people are just, I've never owned a car that everybody, when you drive by it, they stare at it. You know, that was one of the reasons why I did tint my windows down to 5%, whether it was illegal or not. In the state of Oklahoma, unfortunately, you know, luckily for us, they don't really enforce that. But I just didn't want people staring at me all the time. You know, this is an American icon. When it comes up to a stoplight, people look at it. And I've owned a Ford GT. People didn't really notice that. Why? Because they're all over the place. You know, when it comes to Dodges, whether you have a Charger or a Challenger, you know, you can have one that's a Hellcat, but people just, you know, unless you're a car person, they don't even give it a second look. Just why? Because there's just so many of them out there. If you don't want a car that not everybody is going to stare at, definitely don't buy this one, because everybody is going to stare at your car. You know, the third thing that really just kind of blew me away was the amount of gas mileage that these cars get. I mean, this is a 650 horsepower car, and when I'm out on a cruise with the Corvette Club and we're just, you know, moving down the road at 65, 75 miles an hour, whatever we may be going, this car will get anywhere between 22 and 25 miles per gallon. And if you really want a baby, you can put in eco mode, and this car will get up to 28 miles per hour just in normal driving. That's what's kind of baffled me, that this car came with a $2,100 gas guzzler tax, which just didn't make any sense to me back in 2016, when this car gets almost twice the gas mileage as my wife's Jeep does. Now, the fourth thing that just about this car is its power. I mean, right now I'm going 50 miles an hour. Woo! And just like that, you're going 100. I mean, this car has power that is, to me, is hard to believe that it's street legal. I mean, it is just it's crazy how fast this car is. Owning a Z06, the power and performance this car has is crazy. I've driven a C7 Stingray, I've driven a Grand Sport, and I can tell you, all of those cars are quick off the line. They've got great acceleration. They're just amazing cars. It doesn't matter which one you go with. The Z06 is kind of like, it's got that extra go. It's got that extra, you know, which it should. It's 650 horsepower. It's a supercharged V8 LT4. And you can feel that power whenever you want it. It's there under your foot. You know, that's the big reason why that I'm not keeping this car and my wife driving it, because she just didn't feel comfortable with that amount of power whatsoever. There's a lot of power there. Now, like right now, I'm on some back roads and I've got like 4 cars in front of me, 1 behind me. You know, very seldom do you get to use the power in this car. But when you do, oh my goodness, it literally will make your eyes water when you smash the gas. Like right here, let's... Now, one thing that I will say is, with this car, you definitely have to have the tires warm. As you can see, we're moving just a little bit. I wasn't smashing on the gas whatsoever, because the tires just aren't warm enough yet. But the tires definitely have to be warm. If not, you can be in this car and going 70 and floor it, and the back end will fishtail on you. There's just a lot of torque. There's a lot of power that's put down in this car. But wow, I mean, there's just nothing like it. You know, it's been an honor and it's been a pleasure to own this car. It's again, like I said before, it's the very first Corvette I ever owned. I paid cash for it, and I've enjoyed my journey with this car. But I'm looking forward to the ZR1. I'm looking forward to Fearless. I'm looking forward to sharing that car with you guys. So until I see you at the next video, I hope each and every one of you have a blessed week. Now, let's check out some of your beautiful rides.